Hi, welcome back to the Latino Paradox. It's Ruben Navarrette sitting with my friend Arnold Torres as we talk about the issues of the day from a unique perspective, talking about why it is that Latinos have so much of a population, such a big population, and so little power to show for it. Our topic today, President Trump's 100-day anniversary, and we'd like to talk a little bit about his priorities up to now. There are certain promises he's broken, and Arnold, at least one promise he seems to be keeping. He seems determined to maintain a hard line on immigration enforcement. And along those lines, not just ratcheting up deportations, but also what's all this talk about the wall and the fact that he seems intent on building this gigantic multi-billion-dollar project along the U.S. southern border.
Well, I think all of the recent data and polling tells us that he wants to be as committed and deliver as many things to his core group of supporters, right? He was going to pull out of NAFTA. They gave him a map, said, look at all the areas that are in the areas that supported you. You're going to be hurting those communities. He just earlier today, he was before the NRA. Once again, really with that boastful bragging of, I'm going to build a wall. You can bet on it. No doubt. But he didn't get his wall, but that simply doesn't change his intensity, as you said, about enforcing the law. He bragged today that if you're deported, you come back, you're going to jail. You're never going to come back. We're not going to allow you in. It's like he's on the campaign again. And this is what's very troubling is that on virtually every promise he has been basically pushed back. He hasn't been able to deliver, or he doesn't want to deliver. But on immigration, whether he builds the wall or whether he doesn't, he's going to come after our community as he has in ways that we have not seen in recent times, or for that matter, an attitude that we have not seen, I think, in a very long time.
So that last point's an interesting one. The reason that immigration is different, I would say, is in part because he gets so little pushback from Democrats on immigration. Democrats made a show this week of saying, we're going to hold up the government, shut down the government, ostensibly because we have this opposition to the wall. But as soon as the wall went away, as a negotiating device, because the president said, well, we're going to get our wall, but we don't have to get it by the 100-day mark. We don't have to get that first $1 billion installment in funding by the 100-day mark. Then I started hearing interviews from Nancy Pelosi and others saying, well, the wall was really just one issue. We do have other issues. So the issue was always going to be the shutdown and the fact that Democrats wanted to shut down the government because they knew Republicans would get the blame for it. Democrats really don't support an opposition to the wall. They don't really have an organized opposition to the wall. They really don't have good arguments against the wall because in their heart, they like the idea of the wall. And I can prove it because every time the wall or a fence act has come before Congress, Democrats have either authored it, sponsored it, voted for it. So Democrats love border walls just as much as Republicans do, if not more. So they are hard-pressed to make an argument against the wall. I've not heard all week long one good argument against the wall. I have good arguments against the wall, but I'm not hearing them from the liberal media or from Democrats. You know why? Because they support the wall too.
Yeah, see, I don't know if they supported Ruben, but I am in agreement with you that it's not the priority that they'd like to give the impression to our community of how they like to present it. That's one. I completely agree. I also think that they certainly don't have another option, because if they did, they'd introduce a bill to at least move people to understand that there is another path of doing enforcement that doesn't require you to do it with a really quite ridiculously applied idea and concept of a wall. That's optics. Most people, as you pointed out previously, that really work along that border say, hell no, we don't need a wall. Senator Torres from South Carolina basically said that, as you pointed out. When you talk to the people who are enforcing the law on the border, they don't want it. So I think the Democrats, I agree, Democrats simply love to use the issue of immigration to beat up the Republican Party. And I think that's the game that both parties play, and we're always caught in the middle. It's our community that's always really suffering significantly because it's always used as an optic. It's always used as an issue.
Well, that's another thing plaguing Democrats. Democrats really are afraid of being soft on border security, being perceived as soft on the border. In the way that during the 1970s they were paralyzed for a decade or more because of their opposition to the Vietnam War and the perception that they were going to be perceived as soft on defense. And they were so eager to get away from nominating George McGovern in 1972, they went through several other nominations before they finally get to all the way to 2004, where they actually nominate a Vietnam vet, John Kerry. And John Kerry makes a big show out of it. I'm John Kerry reporting for duty. That was all for the benefit of saying the Democrats had finally put to rest the perception that they were soft on defense and soft on the military. Well, now they have another problem. They are perceived time and again as being soft on illegal immigration and soft on the border. And so I will go further and say Democrats typically go to border enforcement first. It's not a question of Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi and others not having ideas. They have ideas and they know where to go get more ideas. They don't have the guts. They don't have the guts to come forward with anything on the border by way of enforcement that might be perceived as too soft. And so they have no choice but to sort of try to hold up the process. But you're right, there is no plan B, because to their mind, plan B risks them being perceived as soft on border security. So the Republicans might be driving the train off the cliff, but Democrats, make no mistake, want nothing to do with that engineer's booth. They don't want to go anywhere near the steering wheel. They have no desire to participate in this debate.
Yeah, they're not providing. They're really not providing a different vision, and that's the point. And I think as long as that's the case, this guy is going to continue to be aggressive. His attorney general is really just off the charts in terms of his aggressiveness and his disposition to want to do things in a way that we've not seen an attorney general before. We've never seen an attorney general come out and support a very new infrastructure of expediting deportations, of really going after populations that we've ignored historically or have not prioritized. I don't care the fact that we're going to criticize Obama about all the deportations. He did a terrible thing. But this guy, I think, will go beyond it. It's his objective. Go to almost, he's in a campaign to beat Obama on the deportations, and he's going to want to go after people that really have never really been a threat to American society. To the contrary, they've been nothing but an asset.
You're absolutely right about Jeff Sessions. The last time an Attorney General of the United States became this involved in immigration matter, it was Janet Reno storming a house in Florida and Miami to arrest Elian Gonzalez and ship him back to Cuba.
Yes.
You have typically not seen attorney generals of either party involve themselves to this degree in the immigration issue. That is particularly after 9/11. Once they created the Department of Homeland Security, that pretty much took care of it. That was where this issue was dealt with. The fact that Jeff Sessions wants a bigger role for justice and is carving out a bigger role for justice in immigration policy, I agree with you, is very troubling. Now, let's get to the questions we always get to in these segments here at the Latino Paradox, and that is, what does this whole discussion about the wall and about border enforcement and the lack of choices and the lack of guts on the part of the Democratic Party and the lack of vision on the side of the Republican Party, what does all this tell us about the three questions we always revisit here, and that is, who are we as Latinos, what do we want, and what in the world are we doing wrong?
Well, I think, who are we? We're a population that's constantly trapped between a rock and a hard place. I think we're beginning to recognize that. I think we're beginning to recognize that neither party ever really looks out for its interests, like to play us both off to whatever interest they're moving and have politically. I think in terms of what are we doing, or better yet, what do we want? I think, again, we're back to always what we want is a fairness. We want to simply not always be the target and everybody's scapegoat and everybody's problem child, which is very, very unfair because that's really not the role that we play. What are we doing wrong? What we're constantly doing wrong is stopping and waiting for somebody else to take the initiative to address the needs that we have. We're always waiting because it is the easiest thing to do, and it's showing itself in the resistance mentality that we have. We're going to be pushing people to do the May 1st May Day by not coming to work. We're asking the undocumented, again, to be vulnerable, to put themselves out there in a vulnerable position. And I think, again, this is a very demagogic approach to advocacy, and I don't think it's in anyone's best interest except those that are playing the game.
For me, I think what it tells us about who we are a group of people that are conflicted and ambivalent about border security, immigration. We love this country, believe that the country has a right to preserve its borders. It is not lost on me that half the Border Patrol are Hispanic. More than half the Border Patrolmen in the country are Hispanic. And it's not lost on me that the border towns along the U.S.-Mexico border from Brownsville to San Diego, largely Latino, oftentimes calling for more security in those places. So we are ambivalent and conflicted on border issues and border enforcement issues. What do we want? We want a secure border, but I think we want politics taken out of it. I know we do. We want to know that we're listening to the Border Patrolman in terms of what's effective. We don't want it to be fences and border walls because congressmen are getting money from the border wall people, or more border patrolmen because they're getting money from the unions on the Democratic side. We want it a straight deal. We want a fair deal, and we want it to be about the numbers and not about politics. And if you secure the border and you do a good job and it's not about politica, all the better. Lastly, what are we doing wrong? We are not actively engaged in this debate along the border. People have this misperception that we want an open border. I'm curious as to how they got to think that. How is it they began to think that a population that is responsible for half the border patrolmen wants an open border? That is not just something that was done to us. We're doing it to ourselves because we are not involved in this conversation. And we need to say that independent of how we feel about what we do with the 11 million who are here already, there should be very little argument about the need to secure that border in a smart way, not just be tough on the border, but be smart on the border as well. Thanks, folks, for joining us here at the Latino Paradox. Until next time, it's Ruben Navarrette with Arnold Torres.